Cage Mines, Micah Frankel, caught up with the crew from Perez Fighting Systems while they're up in Albuquerque for sparring ahead of a bunch of bare-knuckle fights for the team, including Apostle Spencer making his BKFC debut January 27th, the Prospect Series. Saw you at the tryouts, sir. What led you to those tryouts?
Well, I've always wanted to be a bare-knuckle fighter. You know, I did MMA for about 10 years, but hell, that was 15 years ago, you know. So I got a lot of ring rusts I got to knock out, you know. So I started professionally boxing because I made the tryouts actually 6 months ago over in Texas. So it was kind of a wash because that whole card got washed. So they never ever called me. So I started professionally boxing just to stay ready and to knock out all that ring rust I was telling you about. And then I got the call that they were going to be doing the Prospect Series, and I said, hell, that's right up my alley because I don't really have a following here in Albuquerque yet, so it gives me a perfect opportunity to get a following from all the fans, you know? Yeah.
Why return to combat sports after such a long hiatus? You did your thing, had your career, now you're on to something else. Why come back?
Because it's just in me, man. It's deep within my soul. You know, I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter at heart, and I was born this way. You know, that 15 years that I wasn't fighting, you know, honestly, I was popping pain pills. You know, I was using heavy drugs and, you know, drowning out that warrior inside that needed that fight, that wanted to fight. And I ended up ODing twice because of it, you know, because I got that extremist mentality. And with that extremist mentality, you know, when it comes to drugs and shit, I end up doing way too much, you know what I mean, like I did, and I end up ODing. But when I take that extremist mentality and I put it into fighting, then that's when I can become a champion, because I have a champion's heart and a champion's mind, and I have that warrior spirit deep inside, and that's why I always come back to it, you know.
You said you've been wanting to be a bare-knuckle boxer. What inspired you particularly to attack this sport in your return to fighting?
Yeah, well, bare-knuckle in particular, because I grew up in Montana. And back in the day, I mean, we were bare-knuckle fighting all the time, but back then, of course, we just called it fighting. You know, it wasn't bare-knuckle fighting, it was fighting. Now, you know, they break it down to bare-knuckle. But for me, it's just going back old school like I used to. And I love it because in any sport I've ever tried, the more I get hurt, the harder I fight. The more tired I get, the harder I go. So I feel it's the perfect sport for me because I feel this sport's all about pain and who can endure more pain and who has more will and more fight in them. And I feel that's me.
That's quite a story there. You OD'd twice. What do you feel led you down that path of substance abuse?
Yeah, well, just that extremist mentality. I also have a very addictive personality. You know, I think the two kind of go hand in hand. When you're an extremist, you have that addictive personality, at least I do. And I have it to the extreme. You know, my mom was like that, and so was my dad, so I feel I have it double. You know what I mean? And so now that I have that figured out, you know, then I can direct it and turn a negative into a positive, and that's what I feel I can do through fighting.
What do you feel was the wake-up call to get you to return back to life and leave what you were doing behind?
Well, the biggest wake-up call for me was my mom killing herself 4 years ago. And, you know, that struck me down really hard. And like I'd said before, a week before she killed herself, you know, she said, son, she says, what do you want to do with your life? And I says, Mom, I want to be a champion. You know, she says, well, you know, your life's halfway over. I was like 35 at the time, and she says, son, your life is halfway over. You better fucking do it now. And a week later, she killed herself, you know, so I took that to heart. And ever since that day, I've been doubling down on my life and bettering myself as a human, as a father to my kids, and as a husband to my wife, and just as a human being in general. And just, yeah, you know, turning a negative. I've learned to turn a negative into a positive, and I've learned to take my pain and turn my pain into power.
January 27th, how do you take that first step towards your ultimate goal?
My first step is just to go out there and give it my all. You know, let my warrior heart show, and let my warrior spirit come out and shine, because the best thing for me to do is go and get an impressive victory, and not just an impressive victory, but an impressive knockout, and impress the boss man. And once I impress that boss man, the sky's the limit for me.